20 years after we buried a body, I found a skeleton under my floor, and he was still alive. I never thought I'd tell this story. Not because I'm afraid of the law, though maybe I should be, but because it's the kind of story that stains your soul forever once it's spoken aloud. 20 years ago, I helped cover up a murder, and yesterday, the man we thought we killed knocked on my front door. It started on a stormy night in 2005. I was 21, stupid, and loyal to a fault. My best friend, Ryan, was the kind of guy people followed loud, confident, reckless. I wasn't like that. I was the quiet one, the planner, the responsible one. But that night, responsibility meant cleaning up his mess. We'd been drinking in his dad's garage, like we always did on weekends. Music too loud, cheap whiskey, bad ideas swirling in the air. Then, around midnight, Ryan said he wanted to teach someone a lesson. The guy's name was Eddie Langston, a local mechanic who'd been dating Ryan's ex-girlfriend, Tara. Ryan never got over her. He said Eddie stole her, as if people were property. I remember laughing it off. Dude, let it go, I said. He didn't. Around 1 a.m., Ryan grabbed a baseball bat and told me to come with him. I should have stopped him. I should have done anything else. But instead, I followed. We drove to Eddie's house in Ryan's old pickup. Rain came down in sheets, drumming against the windshield. I remember thinking the storm would cover any sound. That's how my brain worked back then. Not we shouldn't do this, but we might get away with it. Eddie's truck was parked out front. The lights were off inside. Ryan marched straight to the door and started banging. Ryan, man, stop. I whispered, but he just grinned. When Eddie opened the door, half asleep, confused, Ryan swung the bat. Once, twice, 3 times. The sound is something I'll never forget. A wet, cracking sound. Eddie fell. Blood mixed with the rain on the porch. Ryan froze, staring at what he'd done. Then he looked at me. Help me, he said. We need to hide this. I should have run. I should have called the police. But I didn't. We dragged Eddie's body to the truck and drove deep into the woods behind Miller's Creek, a place we used to camp as kids. We dug a shallow grave with our hands and a rusty shovel from the truck bed. When we were done, Ryan threw in the bat and whispered he had it coming. The next morning, I expected the cops to show up, but no one came. Eddie was reported missing, but there was no evidence, no witnesses. The storm had washed everything away. Ryan and I made a pact, never speak of it again. And for 20 years, we didn't. Then, yesterday, 20 years to the day, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, my blood froze. The man standing there was older, thinner, scarred, but his eyes, those unmistakable blue eyes, were the same. Hey, he said softly. You remember me, don't you? It was Eddie Langston. I couldn't speak. For a second, I thought maybe I was hallucinating. That guilt had finally cracked something inside me after all these years. But the man at my door wasn't a ghost. He was breathing. His clothes were damp from the evening drizzle, his skin pale, but alive. Eddie, I whispered. He smiled. So you do remember me? The sound of his voice, raspy, a little broken, was like being dragged back through time. My knees almost gave out. He looked older than he should have been. Maybe mid-40s, but there was something off about him. His movements were slow, careful, almost rehearsed, like he was remembering how to be human again. I stepped aside without thinking. Come in. He brushed past me. As he did, a faint chemical scent hit me, something sterile, like a hospital or bleach. He sat down at my kitchen table like he'd been here 1,000 times before. For a full minute, we just stared at each other. My mind raced through every impossible explanation, twin brother, coincidence, nightmare, until he said the words that froze my blood. You buried me, he said quietly. Now it's your turn to dig. I tried to laugh, but my throat locked up. What the hell are you talking about? You and Ryan, he continued, eyes never leaving mine. Behind Miller's Creek, August 14th, 2005. The night you thought you killed me. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. He wasn't guessing. He knew. Details no one else could possibly know. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The words carved into that coffin glowed faintly under my flashlight, as if the wood itself was alive. Now it's your turn. I stumbled back, gasping for air. The forest felt heavier. Every sound amplified. Wind, branches, the creak of old trees that suddenly felt far too close. I had 2 options. Call the police or open the coffin. And because I've always been an idiot when it comes to choices, I opened it. The lid came loose with a groan. The smell hit first, damp rot and metal. Inside wasn't a body, though. Not this time. There was a mirror. Just a cracked, dirty mirror lying on top of something wrapped in cloth. I lifted it, and for a second, the reflection staring back wasn't mine. It looked like me, but older. Eyes sunken, face pale, covered in dirt. And then it smiled. I dropped the mirror, heart racing, and pulled the cloth aside. Inside was something far worse. A photo. Ryan and me. Taken in 2005. The same night of the storm. But we'd never taken a photo that night. There were no cameras, no phones. And yet, there it was. In the picture, Ryan had his arm around me, grinning. Behind us, blurred by the rain, stood someone else. Someone I hadn't noticed before. Eddie. And in the photo, he wasn't dead. He was smiling too. I backed away, shaking. My mind couldn't make sense of it. This wasn't possible. None of this was. I kicked the coffin lid closed and turned to run. And that's when I saw him. Standing between the trees, maybe 20 feet away, it was Eddie. The flashlight caught just enough of his face to show that same half smile. Looking for something? He called softly. I froze. He stepped closer. You shouldn't have come here, Mark. I warned you. What do you want from me? I shouted. My voice cracked. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into his pocket and tossed something toward me. It hit the ground with a dull clink. A cell phone. Old, scratched, covered in dirt. Answer it, he said. The phone lit up by itself, the screen flickering. A video started playing automatically. It was dark and shaky, filmed from a low angle. Rain, mud, flashlight beams. Two men digging, Ryan and me, the exact night of the murder. But this wasn't a memory. It was footage. Someone had filmed us. My stomach dropped. How do you have this? Eddie tilted his head. You tell me. You're the one who kept the secret for 20 years. The video kept rolling. Ryan looked up at the camera, startled, just before the bat swung. The footage cut out there, mid-motion, frozen on Eddie's terrified face. And then the phone died. I looked up. Eddie was gone. By the time I got home, it was dawn. I locked the doors, closed the blinds, poured a glass of whiskey with trembling hands. Everything inside me screamed that I was losing my mind. But then, around 8 a.m., my doorbell rang again. I didn't move. It rang twice, then 3 times. Finally, I forced myself to the peephole. But it wasn't Eddie this time. It was 2 police officers. Mark Evans? One of them said, "We need to ask you a few questions about your friend, Ryan Dalton." My stomach twisted. What about him? The officer hesitated. His body was found early this morning, out near Miller's Creek. I went cold. Cause of death? I whispered. He glanced at his partner. Suffocation. Looks like he was buried alive. The world tilted. My knees nearly buckled as the room spun around me. The second officer stepped closer. Did you see or hear from him recently? I shook my head. No. I haven't talked to Ryan in years. They exchanged a look. That's strange, one of them said, flipping open a small notebook. Because we found this in his pocket. He handed me a folded piece of paper. My name was written on it, shaky handwriting, smudged by dirt. Inside, just 5 words. He's coming for you next. I must have read that line 100 times. The police left after a while, leaving me with more questions than I could handle. My brain was spinning, trying to connect the dots. The coffin, the video, Ryan, Eddie. Could Eddie have done it? Could he really have survived? Or was this something else? Someone pretending to be him. I sat there until sunset, staring at the jar of dirt Eddie had left on my kitchen table. That's when I noticed something I hadn't before. A faint piece of paper buried halfway inside. I dumped the dirt out, coughing as dust filled the air. The note was folded tightly, written in the same shaky handwriting as Ryan's. It said, "You buried the wrong man. You buried the wrong man." The words burned in my hands like they were alive. Wrong man? What the hell did that mean? I read it again and again, until the ink started to blur. My brain replayed that night in 2005. Every second of it. The swing of the bat, the sound, the rain, the way the body fell. It was Eddie. I remembered his face, his jacket, his boots. It had to be him. But then, why was he alive? Or, who was the one we buried? I needed answers. And there was only one person left who might have them, Tara. Tara hadn't lived in town for years. After Eddie went missing, she moved to cities away, got remarried, changed her last name. I found her through an old Facebook profile. She hadn't posted in a decade, but I managed to find a business address linked to her name. When I arrived, she looked at me like she'd seen a ghost. "Mark," she said, voice trembling. "What are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you," I said. "It's about Eddie." The color drained from her face. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't say his name." "Tara, listen." She shook her head. "He's back, isn't he?" That stopped me cold. "You've seen him too." Tears welled in her eyes. "He came to my house last week. He left things, photos, dirt. He said he forgave me." I stared. "Forgave you for what?" She looked at me like I already knew the answer. And in that moment, I realized, maybe I did. Back in 2005, after the storm, I remembered something strange. Eddie's house lights had flickered when we got there, but the porch light stayed on even after the fight. I never thought about it again. Until now. Tara, I said quietly. That night, was Eddie home alone? She didn't answer, just turned away, shaking. Tara. Who was there? Her voice broke when she finally spoke. His brother, Daniel. I felt my stomach drop. Eddie had a brother. She nodded. Twin. They were identical. Daniel lived with him for a while. You wouldn't have known who was who unless you really looked. I told Ryan once, but he didn't believe me. The room spun. I grabbed the edge of her desk to stay upright. So that night, the man Ryan attacked. Oh my God, I whispered. We killed the wrong one. She nodded through tears. Daniel was quiet, gentle. He tried to keep Eddie out of trouble, but Eddie always dragged him into it. That night, Eddie told me he was going to confront Ryan. Daniel must have gone instead. My chest tightened until I could barely breathe. All those years, I thought we'd killed Eddie, the one who deserved it. But it wasn't him. It was Daniel, the innocent one. And the man who came to my door yesterday wasn't a ghost. He was Eddie, the real Eddie, and he wanted us to suffer. I left Tara's office in a daze. My thoughts were chaos, guilt, fear, confusion all tangled together. The street outside was empty, the world strangely quiet. When I got home, the front door was open. I froze in the doorway. The lights inside were on, though I'd turned them off before leaving. My TV was playing static, white noise filling the room. And on my living room wall, written in black marker, were 3 words. Dig deeper, Mark. Every instinct screamed run, but I couldn't. Something in me needed to know how far this went. I went to my basement, the only place I hadn't checked in years. The smell hit me instantly. Damp, mold, and something metallic. My flashlight flickered as I went down the steps. On the floor, right in the center, was another jar of dirt, identical to the first one. I unscrewed the lid. Inside was another note rolled tightly. It said, "You owe him his grave." And beneath the jar, half buried in the concrete floor, was something metallic. A latch. I scraped the dirt away until I found the edges. It was a trapdoor, sealed under a thin layer of cement. My breath came fast, heart pounding. I fetched a hammer and started chipping away at it. Each strike echoed like thunder. When it finally gave way, I pulled the hatch open, and the stench hit me like a wave. A crawl space, small, dark, lined with old wooden boards, and inside, lying there in the shadows, was a skeleton, a human one. For a moment, everything went silent. No sound, no thought, just the world collapsing around me. The skull was cracked, the bones were old, to decades at least. And in the corner of the crawl space, half buried in dust, was something small and metallic. A locket. I picked it up with shaking hands. Inside were 2 faces, young, smiling twins. Eddie and Daniel Langston. Only one of them was still smiling. I stumbled back, gasping for air. My phone rang upstairs, loud and sudden, making me flinch. I climbed the stairs, shaking, grabbed it, unknown number. I answered. A whisper came through the line. "Now you found him," Eddie said. "Next, I'll show you where you go." Then the call cut off. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. I sat in my kitchen with the phone in my hands, waiting for it to ring again. It didn't. The silence in my house was thick, like the air itself was listening. Eddie was alive. Daniel was dead, and I had just found Daniel's body under my own floor. My house wasn't mine anymore. It was a graveyard I'd been living in for 20 years without knowing. When the sun came up, I packed a bag. I told myself I was leaving. New name, new city, anywhere but here. But guilt doesn't let you run. It follows you, breathing down your neck. As I walked toward the front door, something stopped me. Footprints, fresh ones, muddy, leading from the front hallway down into the basement. I hadn't been down there since last night. My heart started pounding again. Slowly, I descended the stairs. The smell was stronger this time. Soil, decay, and something else, smoke. When I reached the bottom, I froze. The crawl space was open again, and inside, sitting beside Daniel's remains, was Eddie. He looked calm, like he'd been waiting for me. "Morning, Mark," he said softly. "Sleep well." I couldn't speak. He gestured to the skeleton beside him. "You found him." I was wondering how long it would take. "Eddie." My voice cracked. "Why? Why do this? Why now?" He tilted his head. "Because 20 years ago, you buried the wrong man. And for 20 years, I've been buried too, just not in the ground." He stood up, ducking under the low ceiling. His face was pale in the half-light, scars twisting along his neck. "You think I got away? That I lived?" he said. You think surviving that night was a miracle? No. It was a curse. You left me with nothing. My brother dead. My name ruined. My soul rotting. You moved on. Got a house. A life. He stepped closer, eyes burning. I want you to feel what it's like to claw your way out of the dirt, to choke on regret every day. I didn't mean I started, but he cut me off. You helped him, he said. You watched. You dug. You buried. You could have stopped him. But you didn't. He was right. There was nothing left to say. He pulled something from his coat, a shovel, old and rusted. He placed it at my feet. Finish what you started, he said. I stared at him. You want me to dig my own grave? He smiled. No. I want you to dig ours. Before I could react, the lights flickered and went out. Total darkness swallowed the basement. I reached for my phone, but my hands were slick with sweat. I could hear him breathing somewhere in the dark. Then, a whisper right beside my ear. You buried the wrong man. Now, you both belong down here. Something heavy slammed into my head. I fell. My vision blurred. My body went limp. I woke to the sound of dirt. Shovels scraping. Breathing. The world smelled like wet earth again. When I tried to move, I couldn't. My arms were bound. My mouth was full of soil. Above me, faint light. A shadow moving, Eddie. He was humming. A slow, broken tune I didn't recognize. Don't fight it, he said. It's almost over. I screamed, or tried to. But dirt filled my mouth. He dropped another shovelful on top of me. The weight pressed down, stealing my breath. My chest burned. My vision dimmed. Then, voices. Far away, shouting. Flashlights. The sound of sirens. When I opened my eyes again, I was in a hospital bed. A police officer sat beside me. My throat felt raw. Every breath hurt. Easy, he said. You're lucky. We found you just in time. I tried to speak, but only managed to whisper. Eddie, the officer frowned. We didn't find anyone else down there. Just remains. Been dead a long time. My blood ran cold. What do you mean? He opened his notebook. DNA confirmed. The skeleton under your floor belonged to Edward Langston. Died approximately 20 years ago. I stared at him. That's not possible, I said. I saw him. He was alive. The officer closed the notebook. Then I think you've got a bigger story to tell. They kept me under observation for days. The doctors said I was lucky to survive. Oxygen deprivation, head trauma, shock. But I didn't feel lucky. I felt hollow. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, pale, smiling, whispering those same words. You buried the wrong man. It's been 3 months now. The police closed the case. They say the skeleton was Eddie. That Ryan, and I killed him and somehow repressed the truth. But I know what I saw. The jar, the mirror, the voice. Sometimes at night, I hear knocking. Soft, deliberate. 3 times. When I open the door, no one's there. Just a small pile of dirt on my welcome mat. Last night, I finally followed the trail it left across the yard. It led me to the woods behind my house. And there, in the moonlight, was a new grave, freshly dug. The headstone read only one word. Mark